For those of you that don't know me, I am a play advocate. I'm also a children's software designer and a children's book author. And after working with other companies for years, including
Are you playing with us again? Is this your advocacy?
It's even funnier what you'll find out in a minute. That's right, the hot spot. Let's see. After working with other companies for years, including Living Books, which I created at Broderbund, I started my own company, Noodleworks, in 2000. And as many of you know, I've been working on a book called Understanding Kids, Designing Interactive Media for Children. And it's been an amazing and wonderful journey trying to write something. As we talked about kids trying to teach other kids, I have had to learn so much more in order to try and write this book. Warren, I have lots of arguments about theory, but today I'd like to share one of the secrets of what I think really creates interactive magic. And it's a little different than where we usually go. As I see it, there's kind of three components of making magic that keep coming up over and over again. One of them is animism. That's bringing something to life. You know, we were looking at state stacking, and there's eyeballs on it. And when you put eyeballs on it, it becomes alive. So there's a piece of making something living book, that come from the sense of animism. Another one of the things that seems to make magic is participation. That's the kid's relationship with the product. And it's actually a relationship. That's part of the living piece. They go back and forth. But the subject that I want to talk about today is surprise. So when the microphone fell off, there it was happening for me already. Now, we all like surprises. Well, at least we like the good ones. And we can have bad surprises, but for today I'm just going to focus on the good kind of surprises, the kind that are more engaging for kids. So what makes a surprise? Well, through the repetition of experience, the brain begins to make assumptions. And it develops anticipatory expectations about how things work, or should work. Surprise occurs when something very unexpected happens, creating a mismatch with previous knowledge or prediction. Surprise can be as extreme as a tiger jumping at you, as subtle as an aha insight about a relationship of how things work together, or as humorous as the best joke you ever heard. So think about peekaboo. Peekaboo is a perfect example of the entertainment value of surprise. In a baby's mind, if they can't see it, it's not there. Object permanence, as Warren was talking about before. And when you cover your face, you literally seem to disappear for the baby. And then when you peek out again, wow, it's just as if you appeared from nowhere. Now that's interactive magic. Disappear.
Peekaboo. Peekaboo. Peekaboo.
Peekaboo is a fun game.
Peekaboo.
And you can play with until it continues to surprise and delight babies until they reach their next developmental level. But what a great example of surprise and entertainment. So what do we know about surprise? Well, as we just saw, we know it can be entertaining. We know it can be exciting. We know it can be good for getting attention. It's generally not predictable by definition. Children are engaged and often delighted by it. And surprise implies there's more going on than expected. And if it's good, kids want more of it. All these are big pluses in terms of interactive design. Adding some surprise can help make things more interesting and apps more sticky. Surprise gets our attention. We have thousands of years of ancestral survival hardwiring, all designed to get us to react to surprises. We can't not look when something surprising happens near us. It's automatic, and our older brains make us respond. It triggers a jump in psychological and physiological arousal. And when you're aroused, you're paying attention. Surprise creates this equilibration or disequilibration. I'm hearing it pronounced different ways. Disequilibration. Okay. That's right. So Piaget talks a lot about how the balance between disequilibration and equilibration influences the learning process. And what's important about disequilibration is that it often inspires us to look further at what threw us off. Surprise generates a what's that effect. So surprise suggests that there's more to explore. Kids love to explore and experiment, as we know. They explore something until they have learned what they can about it, whether it's exploring the physics of jumping in a mud puddle or tapping on something on an app. Once kids feel they have an interest and understanding of how things work or how they think something works, it no longer interests them, and they move on. In children's products, it's common to design something to animate once with a sound when tapped, as we did in Living Book. But if that's all that ever happens, then the kids learn, oh, that's its one trick, and quickly consume the content and are on to the next thing. Now, simple click and sound can work okay for kids under 6, as the world is still magical for them. But a 7-year-old who is operating at a different developmental level will quickly grasp what it does and is out of there. This is where adding some surprise adds value. Surprise reminds us that kids don't know all about how it works yet. Surprise implies a larger world of unknown events and mystery. Surprise adds renewed interest. And surprise promises more surprises. Surprise can support intermittent reinforcement. I know. B.F. Skinner developed a theory of intermittent reinforcement, which is when, without warning, something special or unusual happens, reinforcing current play patterns. As an example, some years ago I was working with a Jim Henson property, Bear in the Big Blue House, and in one of the apps, we had built a card game where kids could play against the highly excitable Muppet character, Cutter the Mouse. Cutter had some hilarious reactions whenever you drew a card that he wanted. In one of the funniest moves, he very dramatically made a big groan and passed out off screen and onto the floor under the table. This was such a big surprise and funny move that kids would play the game over and over and over again to get Cutter just to do that move again. So my point is, intermittent reinforcement can also be used to reinforce fun. So after looking at the different aspects of surprise, it seems to fall into 3 categories: startle surprise, amaze surprise, and insight surprise. Anyone can be startled, as our young friend here is. But startle surprise is most often associated with caution or fear. Startle surprise is part of everyone's older survival hardwiring system. Startle surprise is the one that makes us jump. So it has been used in every scary movie you have ever seen to get a reaction from you. Just when you think that the bad guy is dead and you look over the edge, he jumps out at you one more time to make you jump again. Beyond those extreme startle extremes, though, used in movies, there are some smaller, subtler surprises, startle surprises, that can give us just a little jolt, a little zap, and can startle us in a way that we like it, and we tend to call it entertaining. Startle surprise is part of the perennial appeal of a jack-in-the-box. You know the jack is in there. You just pushed it back down, but you turn the crank anyway, knowing it's going to pop back out and surprise you. Most kids like surprises. And with a jack-in-the-box, they also have some control of the surprise. Kids like the jolt of surprise they get, and will do it again and again until it no longer surprises them. Amazed surprise comes from an unexpected outcome of events. It usually is associated directly with the cause and effect of user-generated action. In children's interactive design, it's the effect of children's actions that drive the amazed surprise reaction. Actions that generate a much larger or very different effect than what they expected. Amazed surprise is often associated with a sense of empowerment, as the child's effort has had an amplified effect. The amazed surprise effect was one of the magic interactions of the pages of the living book. In living books, just simply clicking around the screen on anything that looked clickable or interesting would usually launch a lively animation or silly sound effect. Young children were amazed and delighted and immediately took ownership of what happened when they clicked. "Mom, look what I did!" was a common response. Those kids who were amazed at what they could do, even if it was just a click. Amazed surprise is often the reaction to a much larger or dramatically radical net result than anticipated, sometimes called the "oh my god" effect. Amazed surprise can include states of wonder, astonishment, amazement, and disbelief. A great example of amazed surprise in gameplay comes in the scenario of an epic win. Many of you may recognize this photo by Phil Sedano. It's from a TED Talk that Jane McGonigal gave last year. And the photo is of a kid on the actual verge of an epic win. Jane describes it as an epic win is an outcome that is so extraordinarily positive, you had no idea it was possible until you achieved it. Almost beyond the threshold of imagination. And when you get there, you are shocked to discover what you are truly capable of doing. It's such a great description of the amazed surprise action. And then we have insight surprise. And that's about an awakened understanding of how things work together. It's the flash of comprehension when suddenly something makes sense. It's the aha moment. Oh, yeah. Oh. Related to puzzle solving, and suddenly glimpsing the relationships between things and between people. It's about when the connections all of a sudden make sense. The insight surprise. So other uses for surprise. There's surprise in storytelling, there's surprise in humor, and there's surprise in audio design. Now, surprise is a major component in all good storytelling. This is all stuff I found out while I was doing this research. It kind of amazed me. So how does that work? The storytellers weave a perception of events and places that are believable to the audience. The audience believes they know the natural conclusion of the story and where it's headed, until the storyteller turns the plot on its head, often to everyone's delight. Surprises in storytelling are mostly based on plot twists. The surprise factor in humor works much the same way. It's the element of surprise twist at the end that makes a joke work. We call the surprise twist the punchline. And how it works is, the less expected the punchline, the bigger the surprise, the funnier the joke is. We all know how kids love the kind of mental surprise that comes with sometimes very corny jokes. Although what tickles them changes as they become older and more sophisticated. Another good thing to remember when you're trying to make a joke is that humor frequently contains an unexpected, sudden shift in perspective. Now, I came across a story of a circus clown talking to kids about their favorite parts of the circus. And one child openly confessed that the elephant was his favorite, to which the clown smiled and replied, "Yeah, the elephants are my favorite too." And then he added, "They're the best kissers in the whole circus." And the look of surprise and bewilderment on the kid's face was priceless, as he first tried to integrate the information, imagining the clown and then himself kissing an elephant. Now that was a change of perspective that he wasn't ready for, and that's what humor came from. Surprise factors in audio design actually cover the whole gamut of surprise reactions, from loud or abrupt sounds that can startle and make us jump involuntarily, to unexpected sounds that grab our attention and make us look, just to see what it was. We are instinctually compelled to turn around toward a sound, a loud or unusual sound. We just want to know what it is. But there is also a subtler kind of startle of the mind, a kind of joke telling that can happen without words, using only sound effects. It can be created by replacing a logical sound with a similar but different sound, or even an illogical one. Mismatched sounds and objects can tickle us. Psychologically, this is called a categorical mistake. And to our brain, it's like a square peg in a round hole. What? That doesn't fit. Or does it? This is a kind of joke without words, and can make us giggle unconsciously. On the first page of my first interactive storybook, Just Grandma and Me, released 20 years ago now, there was a simple gag with a bird in the tree right over the cow is. And when you clicked on that spot in the tree, the bird flew down into the scene, turned, and swooped back toward the nest, sort of buzzing past the cow, who moved a little bit. And moved. As the bird returned to its perch. A fairly simple gag, really. The audio joke was that we used the sound of an airplane flying and swooping down and zooming back up past the cow. Every time we showed the gag, and we literally showed it, hundreds and hundreds of times to crowds and events, was a place about 3/4 of the way through where there was the audience where about a third would laugh, and they would consistently give this little chuckle, like but it wasn't like a big guffaw laugh. It was just like this little thing that happened to them as it went by, and as we kept seeing it over and over and over again, we realized what was happening was that it was almost like an unconscious joke. Birds fly and airplanes fly, but the little bird with the airplane sound didn't quite match up. But because audio awareness is lower than visual awareness, the sound kind of effectively sneaks in the side door of your cognition, and the discrepancy goes all but unnoticed, except it does make a little brain pickup in the second level of internal real-world processing. That surprise discrepancy in sound and picture was what tickled people's funny bones. And even though they weren't always aware of why it was so cute. So, in doing this research, I was just totally surprised by surprise. It kind of blew me away. Just look at surprise, and pretty soon I'm off down all these other branching areas. And what I keep seeing is that elements of surprise can be found throughout all award-winning titles, and are often connected to many of the most magical moments in life. Thank you.